Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started with a quick introduction as we have our attendees start trickling in. So first of all, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Leah Brown and I am the managing editor here at IT Revolution. Today, we're so pleased to host a fireside chat with the lovely Clarissa Lucas, who's the author of our latest book, Beyond Agile Auditing, 3 Core Components to Revolutionize Your Internal Audit Practices. And today, she is joined by Becca Kinney, who is currently the Senior Vice President of Audit at Anywhere Real Estate, and Trent Russell, the founder of Greenskies Analytics, where he makes analytics actually work for internal audits. And I want to thank all of you so much for being willing to join us today and talk audit. In today's chat, Clarissa will start us off by giving a brief introduction to our guests and to the book. And then she and our guests are going to discuss concepts in Beyond Agile Auditing and how those address some of the issues auditors and audit clients have been facing in the last few years. Hopefully they'll be sharing some of their own experiences and you all can leave with a set of new ideas and tools to try out and experiment with in your own audit world. After the chat, we'll open things up for a Q&A with the audience. Please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A function here in Zoom at any time, or you can also add them over into the chat. Either way, I'll find them. But now I think I will hand things over to Clarissa, who's going to tell you a bit more about our guests and about her book. Clarissa.
Thanks, Leah. Before we get too deep into the chat, I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. For those of you who were able to join us at last week's event, welcome back. And for those of you who weren't able to make it, welcome. There's a recording of last week's event, just as this event is being recorded. And that link to last week's event is available on YouTube, and I think we can get that probably in the chat for all of you as well. So if you weren't able to make it, or you were and you want to listen to it again or watch it again, you can check that out whenever it's convenient for you. All righty. All right, so we all know that as much fun as auditing is, I mean, I love auditing. Anyone who works with me or spends more than 2.5 minutes with me talking about auditing knows that it is so much fun and that I absolutely love it. Unfortunately, it can be a painful experience both for us as auditors and for our clients. And one of the main reasons for that is that our world is changing around us so much faster than it ever has before. And our old ways of working, while they worked in a slower environment, they just can't keep up with today's pace of change. So Beyond Agile Auditing is about breaking free from those old ways of working, those constricting frameworks, so that auditors can really add value and reduce that pain, reduce those audit-induced headaches for both ourselves and for our clients. It's also about moving past that tired auditor versus client, us versus them mentality, where people fear us, they fear the auditors and see us as roadblocks to progress. Sometimes we'll hear, we can't do this because the auditors won't let us, which we know is not true. So we definitely need to move past that. And Beyond Agile Auditing shows us how to work together with our clients and leverage each other's unique strengths that we each bring to the table and help each other succeed. So we're solving that problem of us versus them, auditors versus clients. As Leah said, I'm Clarissa Lucas, the author of Beyond Agile Auditing, and I've spent most of my career in internal audit or another risk assurance type role. I said I love auditing, and I absolutely do. I hold a number of internal auditing designations: the Certified Internal Auditor, Certified Information Systems Auditor, and Certified Investments and Derivatives Auditor. I lead a technology audit team, and I'm also a professional speaker and published author. I've spoken at a number of Institute of Internal Auditors, ISACA, and IT Revolution events and conferences over the past few years, and I'll be doing more of that again this year. I'm speaking at the International Conference in Amsterdam in a couple of weeks, in about a month, and then the ISACA GRC conference later this year. I've also published articles in the IA's Internal Auditor magazine. The most recent was on this topic of auditing with agility and moving beyond agile auditing, and that was in April of this year. I'm not sure how many of you, I assume a lot of you are familiar with Gallup's Strength Finders assessment. But for those of you who aren't, it's an assessment that you take to identify your top 5 strengths. And instead of working on developing things that you're not good at, it helps you develop your strengths so that you can leverage those to their full extent. Harmony is one of my top 5 strengths, according to that assessment. And that really comes forward in situations where auditors and clients don't get along really well and they don't work effectively together. My team and I experience conflict with our clients and receive feedback that the value of our work as auditors wasn't really consistently clear to our clients. And that created a lot of internal turmoil for me. Harmony as a strength for me means that those types of conflicting situations create a lot of stress and anxiety for me. And I, in those situations, start looking for ways to get everyone back on the same page and working together harmoniously. We might not always agree on things, but we can still work together with harmony. And that was one of the catalysts for the experiences, my own personal experiences that I share in the book, and what ultimately led to these better ways of working called Auditing with Agility. And of course, the book itself. So I want to start off by addressing the elephant in the room, which is auditors versus clients. Historically, auditors haven't always had the best relationships with our clients. We started to make progress in building those stronger relationships, but there's definitely some challenges that are getting in the way of a truly valuable partnership. We may be in a stage where we can just tolerate each other and deal with each other and get through the audit, but we don't want to just get through an audit. We really need to partner with our clients. We need to leverage each other's strengths and unlock a completely new and much better audit experience, both for ourselves and our clients. So I mentioned that Beyond Agile Auditing is about breaking free from those older ways of working and those confining frameworks. And one of those constricting frameworks is a waterfall approach, and that's what we typically use to perform audits. Now, what I mean by a waterfall approach is it's that stage-gated approach. So you plan an audit and you identify the key objectives, key risks, key controls, figure out how you're going to test everything, wrap that all up, get it approved, and then you move on to the next phase, which is fieldwork. Fieldwork is where you execute that approved plan, you test all of your controls, document all of your work papers, get approval on all of those, and then you move to reporting. Reporting is where you gather up all of your results and you then communicate those to your audit clients, which is typically in the form of an audit report. But if it was only that simple, it would be great. Usually it's not. Usually at that point, you start your rounds of negotiations on the content of the report, the language of the gaps that you've identified, the ratings, the overall rating, if you produce an overall rating, the ratings on each individual finding or observation. So there's definitely challenges with that waterfall approach. And I'm sure all of you have experienced one or maybe all of these challenges when you use that strict waterfall approach to your audits. It can result in unplanned work. Nobody likes surprises, especially from audit, especially when it's additional work caused by an audit or as the result of an audit. So that's definitely a number one challenge that I hear from my clients. It relies on a lot of context switching. And what that does is it introduces a lot of inefficiencies and slows things down. Because of the gated and staged nature of a waterfall approach, it inherently has choke points at each of those stages. And a lot of times it delays communications of results until the end of the audit, which can lead to really stale or outdated results, which kind of feeds into that feedback that you might get from your clients of this isn't really adding a ton of value. And since most of us here are auditors, even for the audit clients, you've probably given this feedback, but for the auditors here, you've probably at some point, hopefully not very frequently, but I'm going to feel pretty confident that most of you have heard at some point that from your clients that your audit team lacked business knowledge. They didn't know enough about your specific business processes, or that the clients had to answer questions multiple times during the audit, or even that it wasn't clear what value the audit provided by the time we got through the end of that. Those are all challenges when we use that strict waterfall approach to auditing. And then finally, these older ways of working, not flexible ways of working, don't really facilitate the ability to change, to pivot, and keep up with this environment that changes so rapidly as it does today. So a lot of us tried to solve some of these problems by moving to agile auditing. And the goals of agile auditing were to solve the problem of that inability to respond to change and solving the problem of not getting our results to our clients in a timely fashion. So what agile auditing is it's a sprint-based delivery model where audit work is performed in sprints and results are delivered to our clients at the end of each of those sprints. So we're getting work in or getting results into our clients' hands sooner rather than waiting to the end. And those sprints also do enable more of an ability to pause and respond to change throughout an audit. So it's definitely solving some of those challenges that we just talked through with a waterfall audit approach, but it's still not a silver bullet. So just like waterfall auditing, agile auditing assumes one size fits every situation. So there will be sprints in every audit, every situation. So it does lack some of that flexibility that we need. Flexibility is super important in today's forever changing environment. So that's why we need to move beyond agile auditing to what's called auditing with agility. Auditing with agility, it's not a strict framework. So it's not a one size fits all, apply the same approach in every situation. It's a flexible approach that empowers teams to add the most value through a flexible, customizable approach to auditing. It's going to enable teams, and I'm not saying just audit teams, so it's teams of auditors and clients. It's going to enable those teams to really experience the benefits of an efficient and value-added audit, while also cultivating and leveraging that strong partnership that we need between ourselves as auditors and our clients. And the key to this is really just selecting the best approach for a specific situation and adjusting along the way as needed. So it's not a one size fits all, apply this framework to every single audit, every single client, every single situation. It's all about flexibility and adapting. The goals of auditing with agility are inclusive of those of both waterfall auditing and agile auditing. So it's to help the organization achieve its objectives by providing value as auditors through assurance and insights or assurance and advice, as well as increasing the efficiency in the audit process and being able to respond to change. So it's addressing some of those challenges that we have with our older ways of auditing, but it also brings more. So in addition to those goals, auditing with agility really strives to deliver even more value by prioritizing work based on value to the organization, delivering results timely, and focusing on outcomes. There are 3 core components to auditing with agility. Those are value-driven auditing, integrated auditing, and adaptable auditing. Value-driven auditing, essentially what we mean by that is that the scope of the audit work is driven by what's going to add the most value to your organization. Integrated auditing, sometimes I'll call it integrated auditing 2.0. So it's not just compliance and technology or operational audit all working together on one audit. It is integrating audit work into our clients' work while maintaining independence. And then adaptable auditing is where we're really going to add that flexibility to the audit process and improve our ability to respond to change in this changing environment. So I'm not going to go into, there's a lot of practices and examples within Beyond Agile Auditing within the book that will walk you through like how to implement each of these 3 core components and how to figure out what practices are best for your specific situation. We're not going to go through all that today. I just wanted to give a quick introduction to the book before we dive into the meat of all of this. And what you're all here for is the Fireside chat. So quick also, I'm not going to go through all of these either, but there are a number of benefits that you can achieve when you audit with agility, when you move past a strict framework. You can respond to change quickly. You can increase your efficiency. You're going to have stronger relationships and partnerships with your clients, greater engagement, a lot of different things. So for time, I'm not going to run through each of these, but these are all benefits that you can achieve when you audit with agility. Also going to do a quick plug. So feel free to connect with me afterwards. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out my website, ClarissaLucas.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter. I give insights for both auditors and audit clients on better ways of working through auditing with agility and a lot of other types of things. I do want you to continue your journey beyond just today. And so speaking of journeys, I'm going to set myself up for that perfect transition. I do have some friends here today, like Leah mentioned, and they're going to share some of their insights from their own journeys and experiences with auditing with agility. So let me stop sharing and introduce both of them to you. So first, I'm going to introduce you to Becca Kinney. Becca is an internal controls professional. She's got over 22 years of experience in public accounting. She's had numerous financial, compliance, operational, IT audit roles, and has supported a lot of different companies through IPO readiness procedures for both technical accounting considerations, as well as establishing and formalizing internal control programs. She has quite the resume. She's worked in a number of different industries and has specialized in government contracting, hospitality and real estate, and entertainment and media. She is currently, as Leah mentioned, the Senior Vice President of Audit at Anywhere Real Estate, where she's done some absolutely amazing work trying to keep her team up on the leading edge of auditing practices. It's no small feat to do that because things are constantly changing. And in fact, you can read her story sprinkled throughout the book Beyond Agile Auditing because she is highlighted in a number of the use cases and case studies there. Becca's got a bachelor's of business administration degree in accounting from the University of Notre Dame. She is a certified public accountant in Virginia and Pennsylvania and a member of the AICPA and the IAA. I also want to introduce you to Trent. Trent Russell is the founder of Greenskies Analytics, where, as Leah said, he makes analytics actually work for internal audit. He's also the host of the Audit podcast, where he interviews thought leaders from the audit profession. I'm going to do another plug here. If you don't already listen to his podcast, you absolutely need to start. And Trent, I have my little keepsake from when I was on your podcast right behind me. So it stays with me. It really meant a lot to me. Trent graduated from the University of Alabama with an MIS degree before he joined Ernst & Young's IT risk assurance practice, where he served multiple industries. He later joined the financial service office at EY and facilitated the development of data analytics procedures, which then led to Greenskies Analytics. So at Greenskies Analytics, Trent increases the return on investment of internal audit data analytics functions for forward-thinking internal audit teams. So thank you, Trent and Becca, for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for the plug.
Of course, of course. So we're going to kick this off with some questions, and then we can, we'll be looking more for some audience questions as well. They're going to be feeding those to me throughout. So let's just kick this off first with where, this is for both of you, where do you see the greatest need or opportunity for the auditing profession? And how does this book meet that need or the opportunity?
I will start first. I think you've said it a lot in the last 18 minutes, Clarissa, but the world is changing all the time. I mean, I see it in my organization, my industry, but there's been just so much change in terms of the world, the economy, the macroeconomic, the industry, the industry broadly for our organizations, but also for the internal audit industry. And so for internal audit, it's a question of how do we keep up with all of that change and how do we keep our fingers on the pulse of what our organization's going through, strategic changes our company's going through, and some of those broader macroeconomic and so forth factors. So to me, that's the question, is there's just been so much change and so much more coming of how do we as an internal audit function keep up with that to best serve and support the company through the change.
Yeah, very similarly, and not necessarily at like an individual audit level with agility, but like more broadly. You speak of the change. Obviously, there's the pandemic, bank failures, supply chain issues, and the days of this is my audit plan for the entire year, and that's how we're going to execute on it. Doesn't really make sense anymore. But I think in addition to that, there is this perception of internal audit that outside of internal audit is mostly negative. I met a guy at a party, I'm not joking, 2 weeks ago, and he's like, what do you do? That kind of stuff. And I said, I'm an audit analytics consultant. And he literally ran away from me, like kind of jokingly, but he was like, nope, not audit. Nope. And so we do have that negative perception, but I think in applying the concepts that you talk and wrote about really changes that, especially within our organization. So I think it could be huge for changing the perception also.
Trent, that breaks my heart that he ran away from you.
Well, it's some kind of insurance audits that he had to deal with. So it's different than internal audit, but nonetheless.
So I think as a I know as a profession, we need to be changing that. And I know we're all working towards it. It's an uphill battle, changing that perception of auditors from somebody to run away from to somebody to run to and ask for their help, because we really can add a lot of value and help there.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but and I do see in the chat, internal audit are your friend. Yes, absolutely. I agree. So for both of you, you may have touched a little bit on this with that first question, but I want to maybe expand on it a little bit more. What have been some of your main pain points in an audit? Not necessarily for the audit profession, but your particular pain points that you've experienced in an audit.
For me, and I've been asked this question by when I was a full-time employee as an internal auditor, and we'd have the audit management system vendors come in and do their spiel. And it was always like, what's your biggest pain? So they could show you that. Mine was always the follow-up. I hated dealing with, I sent this thing to you 2 weeks ago. You said you would have it by now, just following back up, or even getting to the point where I would physically have to leave the building I was in, walk to their desk and go, can you take 5 minutes and give that thing to me like you said you would? And so I've always hated having to keep up with that. And so being able to work with the client, if that's a daily basis or if we're part of their weekly all hands meetings or whatever, and be part of that as opposed to let me send you this email, is one of the bigger pain points for me was that. And that's what I think auditing with agility has really would change for a lot of people.
That's a good one. I mean, as I was listening to Trent talk, I came up with 3 off the bat, but I'm going to stick to one. I'm going to stick to the main one that we've really solved through auditing with agility, and that's being relevant in our reporting. And that we'd be, I would feel like we'd be on the forefront. We'd be relevant throughout the audit, scoping, execution, so forth. And then the reporting process would take so long that by the time the report came out, it would be completely stale. And, we were looking at our cycle times, and it was taking us like 100+ days to issue audit reports. And that was just because of all the back and forth with the audit client on getting the details just right of the audit finding, getting the details just right of the remediation plan. And by the time we'd get it all wrapped up, it would be 100+ days and completely irrelevant at that point. And so that's what kind of auditing with agility did for us, is we managed to get that cycle time way down to like high teens, 20 days. And just, some of that was just giving visibility to what the audit issues were that we were seeing as we go. So kind of every 2 weeks through those sprints, we were giving the audit client a preview of the audit issues that we were finding, and working with them real time to make sure that they were appropriately articulating what the issue is, but then also building a remediation plan as we go. So at this point, I say our audit report issue times are way down, but also in a lot of cases, the issues are remediated by the time we issue the audit report. Not because it's in a 100-day audit report, but just because we were able to work through it and eliminate all of those surprises. Which then, to the point about everybody not loving auditors, it helps with some of that angst if they don't feel like you've come at them way after the fact with kind of a gotcha audit issue. So trying to use that to be more collaborative, but also give more real-time insights.
And Becca, moving from a 100-day reporting phase or reporting timeline to way less is completely impressive. And that's why when I introduced you, said like you're doing such great things with your team. You also mentioned that your some of those findings are remediated before that report even goes out, and that's got to be a much better feeling for you and your team to be telling that story, as well as for your clients. Of I've mentioned this before. We've experienced similar things too. Of instead of saying like, here's all the stuff management has to fix, good luck, it's here's what's going on in this space, and here's the things that management's already done. Look, they've already fixed some of these things or addressed some of these things or made progress on these things. So I think that really does help strengthen that partnership. I know I mentioned like we're not just tolerating each other and just battling it out over the 100 days. And that's after you've done the audit work. That's the reporting part of it. It's partnering through that and telling the current state of the story, not just here's the carnage after a battle of an audit. No wonder people would run away from us back in the day.
And that, it's made for much better conversations with the audit committee as well. Like it used to be so much of the time with the audit committee was spent discussing like why management was slow, why they weren't remediating audit issues. And, kind of the audit committee would spend so much energy on that. Whereas now the audit committee can like really focus on what are the real issues and what are the recurring themes. And, it's not on following up on management to remediate things. So that's another kind of byproduct, but yeah, overall, much better experience.
And that kind of goes into, Trent, what you were saying too about reducing the follow-up and the having to track people down by having everybody part of that conversation, and having everyone have some teeth in the game there. Just probably not the right, but you know what I mean.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. And then just even with that, just having showing them that and them understanding it and the relationships that are stronger from that is so much better than, especially if you're on their daily stand up or their all hands or something, as opposed to, again, an email or something. Like the amount of emails that people delete, or pay no attention to. It's kind of hard to ignore if you're right there.
Exactly. Oh, I lost the email. I didn't lose the person standing right next to me. So what kind of techniques have both of you or either of you tried before you tried auditing with agility, and kind of talk through some of that?
I'll start. So my team, and Clarissa, you've said a lot of nice things about me and my leadership, but I really have to give it all to my team. That I've got a brilliant team of individuals that are kind of at the forefront of auditing. And so they came to me and said that they wanted to implement Agile Audit. I didn't know much about it, but I kind of went with it, said, whatever you guys want to do, I'll give you the space to work on it. And so, when you asked before we implemented auditing with agility, we went full bore in auditing or implementing Agile Audit. And so, we went to kind of the strict letter of Agile Audit, implemented, worked with a consultant to do some pilots, then went kind of full in. And from there, I would say we went with, I keep saying strict, but all the strict Agile processes and documents and terms and all that. And at some point decided that we needed to be a little more flexible. Like Agile Audit is very flexible, but we need to be even more flexible to make it work for our company, our organization, our team. And so, we have, tweaked some things around the edges, definitely changed some of the documents and deliverables, definitely changed some of the names of some of the deliverables. And moreover, we use Agile Audit, but we also kind of look at each audit individually. And so there are some audits like a T&E audit that we're doing for the board or executive management where it doesn't make sense to Agile Audit because the deliverable that we needs to be a little more stringent versus, a different type of audit. It makes sense for us to use a different report format. So, at this point, we look at each audit individually and say, what's the right set of deliverables? What's the right cadence for meetings? And we treat each audit separately, but we have a heavy dose of Agile Audit as part of that.
I love that, Becca. So Trent, real quick before you answer, what you just showed is it doesn't have to be even binary. I talk about Agile or not, like you're even taking that a step further of it doesn't have to be Agile auditing or auditing with agility. You can leverage the pieces of Agile auditing and still achieve the benefits of auditing with agility. You don't have to give up Agile auditing, but you can build upon that foundation that you already have since you and your team did find success with Agile auditing and take your organization to the next level with adding more flexibility. So that's just awesome. Yeah. Trent?
So I've been doing, just because of the data world, more kind of programming, like that's where I feel like Agile really came up from. So I had a background in it before the book. The book was like a great supplement to that. And there was some definite takeaways from there that I've applied, and I hope we get a chance to talk about those. But before that, when I was just doing audit work, I thought the solution was productivity tips and tricks and hacks and books. And so I tried, pen and paper. I just tried all these various techniques, Pomodoro techniques, crazy Excel sheets with due dates and all this kind of crazy stuff, and different apps and things like that. thinking that that was the problem when it really wasn't the problem. It was really the process. And then within that, probably, or maybe even outside of that, the mindset within that. So that's what I thought the solution was. Like, okay, I got to go read this productivity book and that's going to fix, my overall problem, when really that wasn't it at all. But definitely, again, I hope we get to some examples from the book and how we've applied them. But I think using it, if you are already doing Agile audit to whatever degree, fantastic way to supplement that and add on to it is through the book.
Thank you. And your wish is my command. So let's talk about what practices and techniques, examples do you have of implementing and leveraging these, and kind of what were the results of your experiments with those?
All right, I've been anxious to share this with as many people as possible. So Becca, I'll take this one if you're all right with it.
No, I'm excited to hear what you've got.
And Clarissa, you might know what it is, because I literally sent you a message right after it happened and said, oh my God, I did exactly what you said to do and it worked. But we're working with this client. And so typically the way it is, I work directly with the data analyst. Maybe the auditor in charge also joins us on our stand-ups. But that's really it. So there's also obviously a broader team. And so we had this issue, this question, maybe it's even a roadblock. And it was, all right, we don't really know what next steps should be. Let's take it to the broader team. And they said, all right, we're going to talk to them in 45 minutes. So we had our 30-minute meeting, 15 minutes in, we're going to talk to them in 45. And so I don't know, maybe I just finished that chapter or something, but I went, let's not do that. Like, instead of me communicating to you and then you communicating to the team, and then tomorrow in our stand-up, you communicate it back to me, where likely something is going to get miscommunicated or misunderstood. I said, shoot them an email, a message real quick, and just see if I can get the first 5 minutes of the meeting. We'll all get on the call together. We'll all, like, everyone will be on the same page. And then the next meeting, everybody's on the same page. And they went, sounds kind of weird, but yeah, let's do that. And so that's what we did. And the feedback that I got from them, the CAE specifically, was like, we need to do that more often. Especially when you have outside help that's working with you. And so that to me was, we easily saved at least 2 meetings just from that. And if nothing else, if we can cut down on unnecessary meetings, I think that's a win for everybody. But that was really it. And so you talked about that in the book. Be part of the client's stand-ups, be part of their all hands. And so applied that, and we've really been doing it ever since. And so that's what, like, as soon as we got done with that meeting, 5 minutes afterwards, I shot you a message and said, oh my God, we did it and it worked. So that was my favorite thing, I think, from the entire book.
I love it. And you were able to apply that immediately. So you didn't have to wait till you were done with the whole book, didn't have to figure out a new framework. Just, here's something that I can do right now in this situation and get immediate results from it. And results being learning. So in this situation, it worked incredibly well. But another concept within the book is this of experimentation. I was intentional saying, what did you learn and what were the results from these experiments? Is not everything's going to go perfectly. You could apply that to everything, not just auditing with agility, but just life in general. And one of the keys here is experimenting and learning from that and iterating. So I love that I'm not done with the book and I'm just going to dive in and try this right now. And I absolutely love that you experienced what I've been experiencing with this. So that was just icing on the cake.
I'll tag on. It's similar in the way of meetings, but I'm afraid of meetings. And not that I'm afraid of them. We have too many meetings. I'm always trying to cut out meetings. And so my team did come to me and say, we're going to start meeting with our audit clients every 2 days. And we're going to have more frequent meetings. I said, no, we're not going to have more frequent meetings. This is not going to go well. And I was very, very worried about it. But the audit clients love it. And they're, short 10, 15-minute meetings. But again, it gives that visibility. And I find that the more frequent we communicate with our audit clients, the better the overall results are, and the less long meetings. We might have more short meetings, but it provides greater satisfaction than having shorter, longer meetings. And then kind of Trent talking about that game of telephone going between meetings is eliminated as well. So that's been a huge win for us, and something that I was very, very hesitant about going in.
Yeah, I hear you on inherently you think, I don't want to do more meetings. And we had that as well we actually had our clients suggesting that to us. So a lot of this has been experiments and learning from other audit groups and learning from our clients as well. And our clients suggested to us, like, hey, what if we met every day? And we're like, hold up, time out. First of all, again, like maybe you were going to run away from me at a party or something, and now you're asking to meet with me more often than I already have scheduled. And yeah, it ended up being more valuable time spent. We knew what we needed to accomplish. We always said, like, if we don't need the meeting, we can cancel it. But we ended up always needing the meeting, even though it was maybe just like a quick 15-minute thing. It was 15 minutes of pure value. So I love that. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you can kind of expand a little bit more on how your clients reacted to implementing some of these techniques, it could be the ones you shared or other ones, and only as much as you're comfortable with. But how have your clients reacted to this?
I mean, very positively, and that was one thing from a change management standpoint. I was very concerned about. You talk about being a harmonious. I forget how you said that, but
harmony.
I'm a harmony person. I want everyone to be happy, and I want everyone to get along, and I want to make sure that we're providing value and supporting them in the right ways. And so I talked about the meetings being a big point, but also, another thing is we're doing continuous risk assessments. And Trent, you talked about how an annual risk assessment and annual audit plan doesn't make sense anymore. And so we first kind of broached that idea with the audit committee of we're going to go to a quarterly audit prioritization. So we have used an audit term there. We don't have an audit plan. We have an audit prioritization, knowing that this is the order of which our audits are expected to be performed in, and we adjust that every quarter. And we adjust it because we're doing a revised risk assessment every quarter. And we do a full blown once a year, but we also kind of just relook at the risks each quarter and then adjust the audit prioritization accordingly. And then kind of similarly, as we conduct an audit, we look at the risks around the audit subject at the beginning of the audit, but then also continuously as we move on. So if we hear, again, something's changing in the technology, we're implementing a new system that will affect the process that we're auditing, so forth. We look at that kind of in our 2-week sprints and make sure that we're continuously looking at the risks of the process under audit and then adjusting our audit plan accordingly. And so that is a way that we are really providing value back to our stakeholders, is that we're not auditing. When you audit at a point in time, you're not giving them credit or attention for the things that they're already putting into place. So we try to give a lot of credit to the things that they are already working on. It's not us versus them. It's us understanding what they're doing and let us give feedback on whatever it is that you're working on. And so I call it an open book test. An old boss of mine talks about that, but audits, I view in most cases, audits should be an open book test of let us look at the process that you're getting ready to put into place. Let us look at whatever initiative you're working on and let us give you feedback on it so that when you then go to implement, what the risks are and what the controls are that should be put into place and so forth. So that's, sorry, a bit long-winded, but another kind of key tenet of auditing with agility for us has just been a continuous risk assessment and giving feedback on that throughout the process.
Awesome, thank you.
And my clients being internal auditors, the ones that I've worked with who, like, I wasn't implementing Agile for them, but they were doing it on their own. And so I asked them as they were going through it and they kind of got the hang of it, do you like it? And they said, yes. I said, do your clients like it? And they said, yes. I said, why? And they said, basically because of the communication, like almost the over communication is what their favorite part was. So I thought that was really interesting. But then, like I said, that's how I run engagements is using Agile. And so I always give my internal audit clients access to like my Jira if they don't have it. And so I like coach them through that and how to use it. And on our last the most recent engagement, we call it the last retrospective. So for those that don't know, it's where you basically go, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what do you want to fix? Continuous improvement type of thing, which is, as an aside, my absolute favorite part of this whole thing is doing that. Like, let's just make it better every single time. Anyway, I said, me working with you, what'd you like? Or the engagement as a whole, like, what did you like? And the data analyst answer was, I love Jira, was the answer that he gave. He's like, I felt like there was because we had the data analyst in there, what he needed to do, my role, what I needed to do, the auditor in charge, what he needed to do, the other auditor, what she needed to do. And so once really they all kind of got into the flow, he told me, he's like, there were some days where he's like, I wasn't even sure if we needed to have a meeting, and we did because we had to clear some roadblocks. But he's like, he's like, I would open the board and look at it and go, all right, I think we're good. And so I know for the clients that I say light agile because I'm not going to full on in some of these engagements, but for them, most of them stick around, and I go, look, you can just keep using it until you can get your own instance, and I'll take a peek and see what's going on, and they're still using it. So I know they have really liked it as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Trent. We do talk in the book about the process of making the invisible audit work visible. And, if you're working on something and I'm working on something, I might know what I'm working on, but I might not know what you're working on. And in every instance, you might not need to know all that, but it can be helpful of, gee, I see you're struggling with this one. I'm doing something that's very similar. Or, gosh, I see Trent is overloaded and he's got way too many things on his plate. And I actually finished my stuff up early. So I'm going to reach out to Trent and ask him if he needs help, or vice versa. So we don't really get into, in the book, specific tools like Jira or Teams or Planner or a physical dry erase board or anything, but that act of making that work visible to reduce the amount of meetings or focus the attention of the meeting. So instead of, let's have this meeting, and Becca, what are you working on? Trent, what are you working on? And Leah, what are you working on? I can just see the board. I know what you're working on. I know what's not moving. I know who's overloaded, who's underloaded, and where I might want to remove roadblocks and things like that. So that's definitely something that we talk about in the book. It's a practice that I absolutely love. Trent, I've talked about having task boards for, Jira boards for personal use. I actually have one for all the things that I need to do with the book and marketing and things like that, because it's something that's totally new to me. So I've been making my work visible outside of specific audit work too.
Yeah.
Another favorite.
Personally, I need to look into that.
So that,
yeah, we've tried it with chores. Trent and I both talked about, like, we've respectively tried it with chores, and it hasn't really caught a lot of traction, but for work, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, just need a little bit of a break from it, But so you're talking about the visibility. Whenever I talk to any like experienced agile person, whether it's audit or otherwise, I always ask, like, what's your favorite thing about agile? And someone I talked to recently said the visibility of it all. Mm-hmm. And there's another project that we're working on, and that we have one analyst and like 25 plus auditors. And initially we tried using Jira. They didn't really like it. And I said, all right, well, we'll be agile. What do you want to do? And it's like, let's just do a to-do list in Excel. And I went, okay, if that's what's going to work best, we'll try that. That didn't work very well either. So eventually I said, all right, let's bring it back and let's try it again. And so this time we're doing it in, I know you mentioned tools, but we're doing it in Planner within Teams. And this is in the DA chat group, or the group that we have, but everybody has access to that. So now all 25 plus auditors can see exactly what both of us are working on. And if nothing else, it's a little bit of accountability of, if you feel like everybody knows what's on your plate, it's like, all right, I gotta do this thing, or everybody's going to know. It also helps, like this, you have 30 auditors, the CAE is not going to be in the details of everything. She just opens it up and goes, yep, good. All right. So our bi-weekly touch points have become way more efficient because of that, because I just pull that up, walk her through that. So I think just having that, like the visibility, it helps also keep accountability to a degree. And it's been probably the best thing that we've done in terms of just overall making things happen throughout the project.
If I can add just another lens to that you talk about the visibility trend, but also, or the accountability, but for us, it has actually flattened our org structure a bit. And that, we have analysts or, kind of entry level-ish auditors who can see what the senior auditors are doing and might have insight or some perspective on what the senior auditors are doing, and are now expected to speak up and give feedback on that. And so, there's upwards communication, there's downwards communication, but we still have our org chart. People still have to report to certain individuals, but it has helped flatten it and make everybody accountable to a project. And so that's been really neat. But then also, we have run into in kind of the early days, experiences where we found that it became more obvious when someone was underperforming or when someone didn't understand what they were doing because of that accountability. And then, conversely, it gave an opportunity for people who may have been kind of quieter in the corners to speak up and give them more of a platform to show what they know and help us better understand them from a performance standpoint. So org chart flattening, but also just kind of giving better visibility to performance development, both positive and constructive, has been really good for us as well.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I do want to pause here, trying to keep an eye on time and everything. I know we've got more we can talk about, but Leah, I wanted to see if there were any audience questions that we wanted to move to.
Yes, wonderful. The conversation's been excellent. Thank you, everyone. We do have an audience question, and if anyone else has a question, again, please feel free to throw it into the Q&A function. So our question is, you focused on partnering with clients to perform work. In the audit context, working with stakeholders, what are some ways you found success doing that while maintaining independence and objectivity?
I can take this one to start with, and Becca and Trent, I'm going to keep it short, which is tough for me. And then if either of you or both of you want to add anything or contradict me, that's fine too. So what I tell people, because I do get this question a lot, is the main thing is maintaining those decision rights. So we're working with our clients. We are leveraging their expertise and their input. We're not letting them make the decisions for us of you need to audit this or you need to audit that. They are giving us really valuable insights that we wouldn't have without them, so that we can make better informed, still independent and objective decisions. But we're retaining those decision rights. So if they say, don't look over here, and I call it your audit spidey sense. If your audit spidey sense says, I still need to look over there, you're still going to look over there. You're just being informed about where you're looking, but you still retain those decision rights. As internal audit, we also still have our independent reporting structure, which helps maintain that. So that helps maintain that independence, which drives that objective mindset. Trent and Becca, anything else?
Everything you just said. One other lens, one other tactic we've used is on kind of bigger system implementations. Like we have some system implementations going on right now. I try to divide the teams so that we've got some individuals that are providing counsel on future design of the system, and we are making sure that the person giving that insight up front will not do the auditing 2 years from now on how it went. So that's just a bit of a wall that we put in, a luxury for bigger teams, but just another idea.
I don't think people like my answer about independence, because I'm always stopped by whoever my client is anyway, because they'll go, nope, that voids it. So to me, independence is a spectrum. Like nobody is, there's some that go, we cannot do absolutely, like we can't do anything. We can't accept a gift card from the IAA because it impedes our independence. And you're like, okay, that's one end. And then there's the other end that's like, let's add value however we need to. And then think about, to Becca's point, like, let's think about the controls we can put in place to make sure that we aren't going against that independence. So I am more on the let's add value and figure out what we can do to mitigate against, a potential issue down the road, as opposed to we can't do anything. We shouldn't even be, we can't have a beer with our coworkers after work kind of thing. And so that's kind of my soapbox independence spiel.
I love it. Leah, were there any other questions at this point?
That's the only question that has come in at this moment. If you had another question you wanted to ask everyone, I'll let you go for it.
Yeah, let me do one more question. I know we're getting close to the end of time, so I think this is a great one, unless another audience question comes in, but I think this would be a great one if this is where we end up leaving it. But for both Becca and Trent, what practices or techniques, because this is a journey, I talk about that. So what practices or techniques from the book do you plan on experimenting with next?
I'll go ahead. So I think for me, we've always used Agile with our engagements with the analyst. We loop in the auditor themselves also to a degree. Like they don't need to be on every one of them, because sometimes it's a very technical call that we might have. But I think it's now looping in the client, their client also onto some of those stand-ups, and really making sure that either we're on theirs or that they are on ours. So especially with data, because it can be so back and forth, and I need this data, here it is. Nope, that's wrong. We need this data. Nope, here it is. And it just, I mean, that's one of the number one reasons people can't move up the maturity model is because of data acquisition. And so I think incorporating the entire team into those conversations is going to be really beneficial for everyone that we work with.
I agree. I think that's going to be awesome. And I want you to send me a ping afterwards and let me know how that goes,
I'll let you know.
Just like you did with the first one.
I'll do it.
So for me, it's been just a matter of trying to figure out how we can take what we've learned and broaden it across the organization. And I start with my teams, then we're taking it broader. But so reporting up to me, I have a couple different audit functions, but internal audit is really where we started with agility. But I also have a SOX function that reports up to me. And then I have a second line of defense function that reports up to me. And so, we're currently having conversations, the internal audit team, the second line of defense, and the SOX team are all having conversations together to share examples and ideas and how each of those functions can use agility. So it's kind of a matter of what did we learn in internal audit and how can we apply it to different types of audit functions. But we're also exploring, like, how can we take this to the accounting department, not agile account, not being agile in our accounting principles per se at all, but more like how can we take some of the themes of concurrent work streams, not using waterfall, like how can we incorporate some of that in finance and accounting to help shorten some of the close times or some of the other bottlenecks and issues that they have. So we're just trying to think more broadly around the organization. How can we take what we've learned and have that multiplier effect and help others some of the same concepts.
That's awesome.
Well, that is, I think, as Clarissa said, a great way to wrap things up. I have just a few little closing thoughts. Listening through the whole conversation, I think there are 3 key takeaways that just completely bubbled up for me. And if you're a reader of IT Revolution books, follow DevOps, anything like that, this is going to be very familiar to you. But if I were to take anything away, I would take away these 3 things: over communicate, period, visibility, and continuous improvement, right? Those are the repeated themes I heard all of you talk about. Never once did those result in something bad, only in the possibility, the opportunity for better. So that would be my takeaway for everyone on this call, is thinking about those 3 big things, but we'd love to hear what your takeaways are too. Feel free to share those after on social media, give us an email, whatever you like. I want to thank Clarissa for writing this book, bringing it to IT Revolution and letting us produce it with you. I want to thank Becca and Trent for joining us on this call, sharing your experiences, being open with everyone listening. We greatly appreciate it. We will be, as I mentioned at the beginning, sharing the recording of this webinar with everyone after the fact. So be on the lookout in your email for that recording. And again, just a thank you very much. And any last words from any of you all before we say goodbye?
Just another thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you, Leah, Becca, and Trent. This has been, this is a new experience for me. I interview people for a living as an auditor, but interviewing people for an event like this is brand new for me. So I really appreciate everyone.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Clarissa.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.